Webster's dictionary defines profanity as blasphemous, obscene language, a swear word, and irreverent behavior, and they also define spoilers as a person who diminishes or destroys the quality of. So suck it up, Bambi. We're going to do both.
Yes, Mama.
Hi, and welcome back to Aim for the Head podcast. This is Julie.
This is Dianna.
And thanks for listening. We're really excited to get into this episode. We are talking about Season 6, Episode 3 and 4 of The Walking Dead. Mm-hmm. Episode 3 is Thank You. Episode 4 is Here's Not Here. Trying to be all proper over here.
Here is not here.
Here is not here. Here's not here.
Right. Okay.
All right.
So first up, we've got Episode 3, Thank You. And we're gonna fire off just a quick short recap to jog your brains. It's been a little bit since these episodes have aired. So basically, in this episode, Glenn and Michonne are racing to lead a group ahead of the herd. They've sort of split off from everybody else who are trying to get ahead of that herd that broke off from the main herd while they were leading it away. They've changed course going towards Alexandria. They're trying to get ahead. The herd catches up to them, and only Michonne, Heath, and Scott make it back to the community. Failing to distract the herd, Glenn and Nicholas are surrounded by walkers, leading Nicholas to panic, then kill himself. Rick circles around for an RV, hoping to draw the herd back on the planned route, but he's attacked by the wolves, and that Morgan had actually allowed to leave Alexandria. Rick kills them, but then the shot-up RV won't start as the walker herd begins to surround it, and scene.
All right. First and foremost, people, we know that this episode, okay?
We know. Like, it's literally on the whiteboard. It's in big letters. We know.
We will not speak on this episode about what happens to Glenn.
There will be no post-dumpster discussion.
No.
Simply what happens in Thank You. We recognize that there is a lot more, both what happens in the show and also fan reaction, etc.
Yes.
Nope. We will be discussing what happens in Episode 3. Thank you. That is it.
Because if we start going on that, we're not going to finish in the 45 minutes we want this episode to be.
Exactly. So, hush. Hang on to it, and when we get to that episode, we'll talk about it then. So hold your thoughts, your questions, your comments, your anger for then. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
So we do have a couple of points, though, that we do want to discuss from this
main
episode. The main one, and kind of start this now since it is really where the episode itself started. They know that they have to get ahead of the herd. Rick's going to try to think of another solution to try to pull as many of the broken off herd back. So they split up, and Michonne and Glenn are going to lead this party back to Alexandria, and he has a brief discussion with Michonne, pretty much warning her, don't stop for anything. Don't stop to fight anything, and don't stop if people are falling behind. And he doesn't say Alexandrians, but we all know what he's referring to.
Well, of course, because he doesn't actually tell this to Alexandrians. He takes Michonne aside and he's like, hey, girl, these people that we don't know real well, if they get a little slow, you just keep going.
Right. He trusts that his group could, if not distracted, and he's afraid that they won't get there. They're going to get caught up because they're trying, and Michonne and Glenn, too, such a big heart on Glenn.
Plus, numbers-wise, if I think about the grouping there, I think the Alexandrians actually, numbers-wise, outnumber the people from our core group because it was just Glenn.
It was Glenn and Michonne, and then it was Scott, and then the two other, the girl, like Lisa or something.
Yeah.
And then the other guy who was writing that letter to his wife.
David.
David,
I only know that because I just read it today. And who was the dude that ends up getting killed? The dolt with the hat who ran off. The one who shot the gun. He's the one that shot Scott in the leg by accident.
Yeah, I can't remember his name.
It was a good one, though.
And Nicholas was with them, too.
Yeah, exactly. So basically, those people all outnumber you. Yeah. They're a little slow, a little inexperienced.
Yeah. So Rick's worried. Yeah. Unfortunately, though, Heath hears this.
I mean, hello, he was so obvious. He's like, come on over here. I need to talk with you. And then he whispers.
In private.
In private, while we are running away from a horde of walkers. Something very important to tell you. But just you. Go ahead.
So Heath hears this, pisses him off pretty much. And once they like duck into like a pet store, I believe, if memory serves.
Yes, there were a lot of aquariums that were in there.
Oh, yeah, and bird
empty
cages.
because
I remember
at some
this
point
now.
someone must have ate them all.
Of course. And Michonne notices this attitude from Heath and confronts him about it. And he's upset. He thinks that it was wrong of Rick to say what he did. And Michonne points out to him, what are we doing here right now? We're here because we fell behind from all the bullshit that just happened with you. And of course, she doesn't put it in those terms. But, she says, yeah, Rick says what he said, but Rick knows. And we've been out there. You haven't been out there.
Yeah. And I think on Heath's side, he felt like, but I have been out there because he's done runs.
Right.
But we all know that going out and doing runs is different. But in Alexandria world, you're either behind the walls and you're, asking about someone bringing back a pasta maker, or you're actually out there like putting yourself in harm's way.
Right.
Which Heath justifiably felt like he had been putting himself in harm's way.
Yep. And Michonne gave this awesome little monologue.
Yeah, fantastic speech.
And when she says, have you ever been so covered in blood that you didn't know if it was your own, a walker, or your friends? And he couldn't say anything.
Yeah.
Then you don't know.
Yeah.
And it was a great speech because it really showed him, like, I'm not the bad guy here. I am with you, but you truly don't know, dude. So calm down.
Yeah, and also she stood up for Rick a little bit in saying, Rick feels the way he feels because Rick's been out there.
Right.
Rick's been out there way more than you, and that's when he's like, yeah, but I've been out on runs. Yes, but runs are one thing, being out there and killing people, and then she took it that step further and said the thing about the blood on your face. So.
And then all hell breaks loose, and by the end of that episode, there's a really great shot of they're walking away, and Heath kind of stops a minute, and there's some water, like a little creek or something, and he looks at his reflection, and he's so covered in blood, and he just reached that moment. He does not know whose blood is on him.
Because to be fair, it was. They had fought a bunch of walkers. They had lost some of their friends. He could be injured himself, so it very reasonably fits right in with what Michonne had just said to him.
I really liked how that episode did that. That whole, like, it came full circle almost. And I think Heath learned a thing or two in that moment as well.
Yeah.
That she's right. My going out on runs is nothing compared to this at all. And this is what they lived in.
Yeah.
Our group, this is what they have lived in for however long this apocalypse has been going on. And these people at Alexandria have been cushy.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I think it finally light bulb click. He got it.
Yeah. It was nice to sort of be right there when the light bulb came on for him. And Michonne was also saying about the whole, you've been going out on runs, but Rick knows because he's been out there and out in the world. One of the things she stood up for was also, like, he may have said those things, but I'm here. I'm here. Glenn's out there risking his life. So,
we didn't leave anyone
Rick can
behind.
feel this way. He has his feelings. I respect that, but also
I'm still my own person.
I'm still my own person. I took what he said, and I'm like, okay, I will, I will internalize what you said about, people, if they make you fall behind, don't fall behind. Keep going. And I made my own choices based on that. And so did Glenn. And he went out and he's doing his thing. So, you better recognize, basically. But yeah, I agree. Great scene for, like, it started off right in the beginning of the episode when he spoke to them about that and went all the way. I think that scene of Heath seeing his face was one of the last scenes of the whole episode. Yeah.
And two, Michonne doesn't speak much. We don't get much dialogue from her.
Yeah, she's not a speech maker.
No, she's very quiet like Daryl. They both kind of keep themselves, very observant, don't really put people in their place. And to see her do that, to say a full paragraph almost, it was it was awesome to see that, to get more on Michonne. I mean, by this point we know a good amount about her backstory, who she is, and she's opening up much more to our group. But she defended Rick and herself and the choices that she made and what they've been through, and I really liked the scene. I thought it was great.
Great scene. And then we jump to
Do
Glenn.
we have to talk about this?
Yes, I'm really sorry, but we do have to talk about Glenn and Nicholas. So obviously, the episode as we discussed in the last portion there, that the episode starts off just where we sort of left off in the end of episode 1 when
premiere,
the horde broke off, and now it's coming through the woods towards Alexandria, and they're trying to get out ahead of the herd, plan something, do something, and Nicholas is in with that group. And one of the interesting things that happened pretty much the whole episode, it's about at least 3 instances that I can remember, it might be 1 or 2 more, where Nicholas, like, he's zoning out and he can't. Yeah. There's like a tinging in his head, like a.
Glenn
and
has
it's
to
like,
call his
and
name
basically,
to get his attention.
Exactly,
Yeah.
have to sort of shake him. Nicholas, wake up! You know, and that happens throughout the whole episode. And it hurts. I remember it right off the bat. I was like, "Whoa!"
Yeah.
I'm like, this.
He's
does
losing
not.
it.
Yeah, it doesn't bode well that he's like spacing out. He's not thinking properly. It's like right as they're sort of running away from the herd, they're like climbing up a little hill, and he's just like, you know, and then making the face, and they're like, "Nicholas, let's go!" And I'm like, "Oh shit, this isn't gonna be good." So you know, they make their way ahead of the horde. They're in that little town. They're making choices, and Glenn makes a point where he's like, you know, Nicholas will do this. Nicholas will help us with that. You know, because he was not pro in the premiere episode when Nicholas was like, I want to help, and he's like, oh God. Okay, fine. And then,
but then in the premiere episode, he did.
He did.
He had Glenn's back. So,
but it was also Glenn was still cautious of his help
Right.
when they needed to clear that that one shop
Yeah.
to get rid of the noise so it wouldn't draw the herd.
Right.
But Glenn was still not pro. But Nicholas did kind of prove himself a little bit there. So, and then this episode, there. He was talking with him, and you know, Nicholas let it be known that when they had their one moment. That's been discussed in previous episodes where they left some of their group behind when they went on a run. This little town that they come upon is where they were.
Right.
They even come upon one of the zombies is stuck in a vehicle, and it's actually one of the Alexandrians
Right.
that was with them. And Nicholas has to, you know, give him the headshot, and he has another one of those like zone out moments, and you can tell that a lot of stuff is really stacking up with Nicholas. He's really having some issues. So it's like he's got these issues, and then Glenn's like, yeah, Nicholas knows his way around here. He's going to lead us through, and you know, we'll go get this thing, and then
we're going to go burn down the feed store as a distraction.
We're going to go burn down the feed store.
Nicholas knows where it is.
Nicholas knows where it is. We're going to go get there.
Yep.
And Glenn's so like pro Nicholas, like, I'm going to help you be a better person and whatever. And you're like, no, this isn't going to work. Like in your head, you're like, please work, please work, please work.
Don't go alone with him.
Yeah, if there'd been a third person, you know, maybe it would have been a little bit better, but still. Anyway, so they go and find this feed place. It's already burned down, so they're trying to think of what to do. Nicholas again, he's like thinking, and he's zoning again a little bit. And then finally it's like, what do we do? And he's like, this way. And they go, and they end up down an alley.
Dead end.
A total dead end. It's fenced off. They're like, then they go to try and climb the fence. There's walkers on the other side of the fence. Because the herd has now sort of started to, because there's the herd coming, but there's also walkers in this town it is.
Yeah.
So they're sort of at that point trying to get away from the walkers that are in the town, and I think they're sort of running around, attracted the herd, which was now starting to arrive. Mm-hmm. So they're in this alley, and their only option that they can see, even though we can see like 10 others. God damn it, take the stairs to the
fire
second
exit.
floor.
Fire
what
exit.
Is wrong with you?
I know.
Anyway, so they make the worst possible choice, and they end up on top of this dumpster. And, you know, it's not looking good because they're surrounded and, you know, the walkers are clawing at them, but they're still alive. They're and they're, you know, stomping at hands, and like Glenn, you know, they're kicking them off and kicking them in the face. And it at least puts them in a position of, you know, they can't get at us yet. This looks bad, but they can't get at us. So you still have this moment of like, okay, they're on the dumpster, they're okay, and you're like, maybe they can just hang out up there until like their crew gets out of the fish, the pet store. Yeah, exactly. All they need is another distraction, or can they like light something on fire and throw it, or what? Anything. And just when you're like, okay, what's going to be their plan to get the hell out of there? Nicholas just has this moment of absolute calm. And he turns and he looks at Glenn and he just says, thank you. And Glenn knows. And you know, and you're like, oh, shit. And they literally, like, they had previously said that they've got the gun. They've only got, like, one bullet left in it or something.
Well, I believe Glenn was out.
Because he started using his gun to smack the walkers.
And they make it a point to so you hear the click
yep.
of the gun.
Glenn's gun. And then Nicholas takes his, which only has, like, a round or two left, and he puts it to his temple, and he goes. And he falls, and when he falls, he pulls Glenn with him. So the final scene that we see is what appears to be Glenn and Nicholas, but it looks like it could be Glenn, and the walkers just attack right away and start pulling apart. And Glenn is just like screaming and crying, and cut.
Well, and then it goes to Rick in the RV, but we'll talk about that.
Right, it goes
in a
to another
second.
scene, but it's,
yeah, and that was probably the weirdest thing about that, right? Like if it was going to be what it all looked like it was going to be,
right.
It would have been the final scene of the episode, and then they just mosey on to Rick. I keep doing this. The second time I've done that today.
Our boss's name is Nick. Julie's done it twice. I think when Thank You aired, I think we were texting, and I'm pretty sure that you were like, wait, what just happened?
What just happened?
What? Because,
Why are
like
we
you said,
Rick now?
Right. Because, like you said, usually when some like a big seminal death or like a thing like that's going to happen, it's going to end the episode or whatever.
Something.
So when it's done and then they go back to Rick, you're like, wait, I'm sorry.
Are we
I'm going to need to rewind my DVR. Did that just happen?
Yeah.
Part of me too, like at first I was like, wait, did Nicholas imagine this? Was
That's
this
what
like
I was thinking too. I thought it was all in his head, and then he would like snap out of it, like Glenn would say his name again, and he'd snap out of it and still be there.
Yeah, like the next thing you'd see would be Glenn going, "You're welcome. Now kick one of these in the face, would you?" Because the last thing you hear is "Thank you." It'd be like, "You're welcome."
All I have to say though is Steven Yeun in that scene, with the spatter on his face and just the sheer shock of it all, like fantastic.
Yeah.
Fantastic, Steven Yeun.
And also, another fun fact, that's another one of those scenes where if you look closely, one of the walkers clawing at their feet is Greg Nicotero.
Yep.
So, and he looks great.
Yep.
Disgusting, but great.
So yeah, right after this scene, we're with Rick, and he gets to the RV, and he's trying to figure out a way to make some sort of distraction to pull as much of the herd away from heading towards Alexandria,
right.
and back over to Sasha and Abraham and Daryl.
Yeah, get them back in line.
Right. And he gets overrun by a bunch of wolves. And we know these wolves because we just saw them in the previous episode because Morgan let them go. Yeah. And then there's this nice shootout. Rick, like, doesn't he take his rifle and just like...
Yeah, exactly.
kills them all. And then goes to start the RV, and it's not starting. He's got, like... how did he hurt his hand again? I don't even remember. He, like, hurt his hand because the first thing I think of as soon as, like, he had a hurt hand was, oh, comic books. Maybe Rick's finally going to lose his hand. No, that didn't happen.
How did he?
I can't remember.
It happened then because it's... Or was it when he was running to the RV?
I don't remember. It's been a while. But so he's sitting there, and he's got such this look on his face of almost like he's going to start cracking up hysterically out of sheer, like, are you fucking kidding me?
Of course the RV won't start after all of this,
yes.
Right?
And that's where the episode ends, is what the fuck's going to happen to Rick? What the fuck just happened to Glenn? What the fuck is happening?
Right. And there's walkers that are like, you can see in the rearview mirror.
The walkers start coming in.
Yeah, the wolves are dead, but like you look on the side and you're like, okay, the RV won't start. What do we do next? Oh, well, that herd of walkers, they're actually coming right toward you. So, you know.
And don't they pan out like with, like, they pan out?
Yeah, and
it's just
it's a great drone shot that shows them like coming towards the RV, and you're like, yeah, there's a few of them coming.
A lot. Yeah, Rick. You need to get out of there.
Get out of there. Yeah, that was and that was the end of that episode. And you're like, okay, Rick, we're really worried about, but what the fuck just happened to Glenn? Like, that was one of those episodes where, like, at the very end, you were like, listen, I like Rick, and I don't want anything bad to happen to him. And I like Michonne, and I don't want anything bad to happen to her either. But what the fuck just happened to Glenn?
I remember sitting there, like, credits came on, and I just stared at my TV, like, I didn't say anything. I didn't move. I just sat there, like, what?
Yeah, that was definitely, and if memory serves, that was a very, like, what? On Facebook night. Like, a lot of people, no spoilers, but they were just putting on Facebook. They're like, so Walking Dead, I'm sorry, what?
I
what just
remember
happened?
a handful of my friends were like, Walking Dead, calling it now. It didn't happen.
Right. Well, and the other thing, too, not to jump ahead, but at least comic books wise, so many people, it immediately set up so many people right away where they're like, immediately, yes, he's dead. No, he's not dead, which we don't find out just yet. We'll get to that. But a lot of people invoked the comics. They're like, we know Negan's coming. We know they're going to make a big thing out of Negan. And, spoilers, in the comics, Negan kills Glenn. So if that's the case, why would it happen here? And then other people are like, well, maybe they did it this because something else is going to happen. So I don't know. But because of the comics, people were, I think if it were any other person, they would have just been like, oh, I believe that this person could be dead right now. But it created so many people that were like, wait, no, not yet.
Yeah.
Baseball bat has to happen. What is going on? So, yeah.
Not like this.
No.
Not like this.
Yeah, exactly. So that's episode 3, and that was a lot. That was a heavy-duty episode.
Yeah.
That's why it's interesting that the next episode, episode 4, Here's Not Here, I'll jump right into a short recap, but it's very Morgan-centric, and it doesn't cover, it's going to take a few episodes before we see what the fallout from, what the hell's going on with Glenn. So it was such a jump. I mean, from something that was so, oh my God, scary, and we didn't know what was going to happen. And there's such an undercurrent of like
slow it down,
and there's a lot of peace and harmony in this one, but interesting. Anyway, so just a quick short recap to remind everyone. And Here's Not Here. In flashbacks, Morgan is living in the woods after he burned down his apartment in a fit of insanity. Agreed. He stumbles upon a secluded cabin and he shoots at its sole inhabitant, a psychiatrist named Eastman. He knocks Morgan out and he puts him in a cell that he's got inside his cabin. And the two gradually bond as Eastman teaches Morgan Aikido and a philosophy about all life being precious. Then Eastman is unfortunately killed by a walker. Morgan leaves and he discovers a sign that leads to Terminus. And then we discover in the present time that Morgan is telling this whole story of his backstory with Eastman to a wolf that he had secretly taken prisoner during the wolf attack that he hopes to inspire him to change his ways.
I just remember watching this episode, and don't get me wrong, I enjoyed this episode. I know this episode got a lot of flack because it was slower. People were still upset on what did or did not happen to Glenn.
Right.
How could you just put this in here?
Right.
I was really excited to get so much information about Morgan because we hadn't seen him. We meet Morgan episode 1 of the entire series, then we don't see him again until Clear. And then the previous season 5, they started putting little Morgan Easter eggs here and there.
Yeah, little tiny pieces.
And now we're finally, what we've been wanting and looking for is this awesome flashback episode of Morgan, but all you keep thinking, what the fuck happened to Glenn?
Right. And we talked about this today when we were prepping. We were looking at the episode list and we're like, listen, the producers knew that they wanted to do this episode. They knew that for the storyline of Morgan saying all life is precious, for his change from, because the last time we get any sort of in-depth meeting with him
Morgan's
is during Clear, and he is totes cray-cray. So in order to explain the jump from there to where he is now, we've got to get that backstory. We needed this episode. And it wasn't going to fly with the heavy-duty fan base after any episode. And
No.
we were talking about it today, and we're like, okay, the the fans are going to hate us anyway for for doing this episode this season, because this season from beginning to end was just so much action, so many things going on, and so many things to sort of like keep together, so many different people coming in from the outside, and all of these attacks from all different directions. But to slow it down and tell this Morgan episode was going to be hated no matter where they put it. So we're going to put it after the one episode where people
are going to lose
their shit. So if they're going to hate us, so we might as well make them hate us full stop. Like that's the only explanation for this being dropped where it was. Because to be fair, if you think about it, you could, timeline-wise, have just flipped it with thank you. You could have had this be right after the Wolf episode. But why do that? Why not just fuck with people a little bit? So,
and if you think of it, too, this episode and the episode where Maggie and Carol are held captive by some of Negan's people are probably the two slowest episodes of this season.
Right. And they always get so much flack for like doing a slow episode, but it's like,
okay, people, you need some slow episodes.
Get over it.
You need them because it builds more stuff. It just can't be bang, bang, stab, stab, die, die all the time.
Right.
I'm sorry, it can't.
Right. There's got to be.
I mean, I guess it probably could, but really, would it have gotten the ratings that this show has?
Plus, it would be. I hate to say it, but you would totally get bored of it after a while if it was nothing but, zombie attack, person attack. You would get tired of it, I promise you.
So in this episode, we it actually doesn't start with Morgan talking to the wolf. It starts with Morgan's flashback.
Well, it starts with him talking.
Yeah.
But you don't know that it's the wolf. You just know he's telling the story, and it could be anyone. And you don't find out until the end that it's the wolf.
Right, and then after this whole long story, we find out that he took a wolf captive and is obviously trying to do some sort of redemption with this wolf. He's trying to do for him what Eastman did for Morgan. And I think that's very bold of him. One, he's doing it in a location that he knows Rick or anyone else would not approve, right? This isn't his own cabin in the woods like Eastman had.
Yeah.
And he's putting people at risk doing this.
Right.
To not only have held the guy captive, but to just be talking to him like this. Also, to try to compare this wolf to Morgan when Morgan was crazy, totally different things. Like, it was obvious that Morgan had PTSD. Straight up obvious. This wolf has more than just PTSD.
More like a cult. It's more like a
exactly.
It's ingrained. It's in him. He is this person.
Right. But that kind of goes into what you and I were kind of talking about, is the fact that Eastman wasn't finished training Morgan and rehabbing him.
Yeah.
So maybe it could have gone differently if either A, Eastman was still there,
right,
or B, if Morgan had completed this, I guess, rehabilitation that he was going through. Could he have maybe gotten the wolf to come around a little bit more?
Maybe.
You don't really know, but...
And it's interesting because I never thought that he'd be successful, mostly because of the conversation that he had with that wolf previously when they were sitting around the campfire. When he first ran into him when he was on his way to meet Rick, he's drank the Kool-Aid. He believes in the, the passion of the way the wolves are. They approach life in a completely different way, and he's in on it. He's not
because the wolves
interested in anything else.
Think that anyone who's actually living needs to become a walker, right? Because they don't kill walkers. They turn people into walkers.
Right.
They're not interested in killing walkers. And I remember him saying something, and I can't remember which episode it was, and I don't exactly remember what he said, and I'm sure when we do our research going on in this, I'll find it. But he mentioned something before he dies. I think it was to Denise.
Yeah.
Or maybe it was one of the wolves that Carol killed.
Yeah.
In the previous episode the one before thank you, they mentioned something about how you're not supposed to be here anymore.
Yeah. It's not. It's not supposed to be you. Yeah.
No one's supposed to be here anymore.
Right.
So they honestly believe that I think they believe that they were helping people move on to whatever is next.
The next. Yeah.
And that they just, and then they kind of live off of what these people leave behind and they carry on with that. So yes, definitely more cultish.
Yeah, definitely. Oh my God, yeah.
Whereas Morgan was he was lost.
Yeah.
He needed to kill everybody that he was clearing. It made sense to him at the time.
Right. Yeah, definitely did. And yeah, I don't feel like exactly what you said. I think that he didn't have he didn't have as much time with Eastman.
Yeah.
As if he'd had a little bit more, maybe he would have been able to see that, some people just can't be. I mean, I get the whole all life is precious and he let them go. That still comes back to bite him later, but still, I get that. But the trying to redeem them, I mean, not everybody can be redeemed.
Right.
Right. Which Eastman discovered. Part of Eastman's journey, if we jump to that, is, he tells he's doing these teachings. Mm-hmm. He's trying to show Morgan this path of enlightenment, if you will. But he eventually, once he's bit, actually, he admits to Morgan that the man that he built the cell for, mm-hmm. that he tortured him, that he brought him to the cell out in the cabin in the woods, and this was just before the apocalypse went down. Mm-hmm. He brought him out there and he starved him to death, and he said it took 47 days. Right. And it's so Eastman wasn't all life is precious back then. Right. He had to sort of grow and come to it, and I think Morgan would sort of be in that category of Eastman just after he killed that guy, regretting it, thinking that, all life is precious and, people can be saved. But it's not everybody can be saved. Eastman showed that.
Right.
He ended up killing someone because I think he thought, because he was a psychiatrist, he could talk to this guy. He could try and save him.
And he couldn't.
Yep.
And we were talking a little earlier also about how Morgan, he's not ready. He's not ready to be teaching Eastman's philosophy.
Right.
But he's in this really precious stage where I think he feels, and it may be true, that if he does kill again, he's going to lose it.
Right.
He's going to go back to where he was, because look how easily it happened when the walker came to him at his little campsite when Eastman went back with him for supplies.
Yep.
And the walker of the kid that he had strangled came back and he was gone again.
He couldn't. Yeah. Exactly.
Right. So and I was kind of equating it to when someone with like an alcoholic. You can't once you identify that you're an alcoholic and you go through your program, whichever program you go through, and you get yourself off of alcohol, most alcoholics cannot just have one beer, one drink.
Right.
It's none, or they lose it.
Yeah, they're going to lose it.
And I have a feeling that's kind of similar to what Morgan is going through right now, that if he kills a human being, he'll just go off the deep end again. And that scares him because he was lost. It was crazy. He didn't know what he was doing.
Right.
He was like a wild animal. Oh
my God, he really was. When they show some of the scenes when, he would light these fires to draw in.
Right.
It was sort of like it was very cyclical. He lit this fire to burn the walkers that he killed, but it would draw in more walkers, which he would just kill more of them and throw them on the blaze.
Right.
It just
and he's doing better.
So
he's not seeking out walkers to kill them. He's only killing them when survival demands that he does.
Yeah.
Because the walker can't be reasoned with, whereas people may be able to be reasoned with. So when it comes to a walker, he kills it. When it comes to a person, he tries to talk them into leaving, like he did with the wolves.
Which does show some of Eastman's teachings, because Eastman was, in the all life is precious category. He, Morgan at first couldn't understand why he, unfortunately had to put down a walker or two, and he buried them.
Right.
He hung on to their licenses, because most people still had their wallets in their pockets or something. And so just it's interesting because it's the first time you've ever really seen the walkers treated with, that kind of care, other than like, say, the walkers in the barn for Herschel,
Right.
or say the walkers that are in the cellar for Fear that Celia is keeping.
Yeah.
But this is the first time where they're actually
Someone's taking the time.
Well, and treating them after death that they mattered. At some point in their life,
people.
they did matter,
Right.
So it was just interesting to sort of take that pause,
Yeah.
As hard as it was for the fan community to take that pause while they're still like, what the fuck happened to Glenn? So you take that pause and you're like, okay, all life is kind of precious.
I watched that episode again after the season ended. I think I either just had it in my DVR, it was on or whatever.
Yeah.
And I watched it, and I did enjoy it more the second time around because it was hard to watch this episode right after Thank You. Like,
Yeah.
there were so many unanswered questions.
I know. And you and I typically are, I don't want to say better. We're not better, but we're more, we keep our mind open a little bit more. We're a little more forgiving for certain things because we approach episodes more like we don't get like fuck you pissed off at stuff.
No.
We get more like I really want to know. Like I still get like frustrated because I want to know the answer to stuff, but I'm not like I don't want to be like fuck you Gimple, like other people. But and not that that's wrong. I'm just saying like our perspective is we just mostly watch stuff and it's like when we don't get the answer, like we don't know what's happening with Glenn.
I give the
it's
show
more
the
like
benefit of that doubt that
Exactly.
they're going to reward me in the end, hopefully.
So we were hopeful that the Glenn answer would happen, but in the watching right when it was being shown, it was a little distracting. It was a little hard to concentrate, I will admit as well. But once things are sort of resolved, a few episodes down the road, and there was like a rewatch or the, I think there was a marathon leading up to when B season started,
Probably.
the mid-season premiere. So, yeah, I rewatched it too, and when I watched it that second time, I was like, there's a little more details here and there. You'll be able to sort of catch on. Little fun fact. Little fun fact. Ding, ding. About episode 4, which I found. Thank you, Wikipedia. Is that Here's Not Here is only the second time that The Walking Dead has done an episode that was entirely just one main character. Now, there were other people. Eastman was in this. They did show his interaction with like walkers, a couple other people here and there, but there is no other main character other than Morgan. They only did this one other time, and it was the episode Live Bait with the governor. And I read that and I was like, wow. And we talked about it today in prep for this, and I was like, it's interesting that the only 2 times that they've done this were not what you would consider main characters.
Right.
I mean, the governor was a main recurring character because he was
He was the main protagonist for a while.
Exactly.
So.
And but he wasn't, the core group of Rick's group. He wasn't part of Rick's group. And
Antagonist? I said that wrong, didn't I?
Yeah, you said it. You mean...
My brain caught it. See?
See?
It may have been later.
The
I am
brain?
sorry.
So-
Antagonist. I know that there are people out there going, antagonist, Julie. Antagonist.
She's wrong.
I'm sorry. I totally cut you off. That was distracting as fuck.
So here were these 2 characters that got these singular episodes, but as much as people would be like, but what importance do they hold? It's interesting how they were both people that were dealing with a journey, because I'm pretty sure I'd have to look back, but by that point, for there to have been none of the other main characters included, for it to just be the governor, I think it's the one where he's stumbling around and tries to find a place, and it's when he comes upon the apartment and he finds Tara and her family. So showing these 2 different people's journeys and how different they ended up. I mean, Morgan was kind of going crazy and he was sort of tamed and then kept that philosophy rolling forward. Whereas the governor, he was going crazy.
He gone crazy.
He was tamed slightly in the sense that he didn't just like kill Tara and her whole family and steal all their shit.
Right.
He was affected by them mostly because of the little girl.
Right.
So I think he wanted, we talked about this, where we both say that we think he wanted to try and be better, but he can't be. He's that person. He's a sociopath. So he put on a brave face and then they left there, and then he sucked these other people in because he's like, well, I still need to exact revenge on this guy, and I need people,
and I need this prison.
I need people
because,
to help
you
me.
know,
Exactly. And I need people to help me, so I'm going to grab these people with me, and I'm going to take them along with me. And then later I'm going to grab even more, and I'm going to glom them onto me, and then we're going to go attack this prison because reasons. Whereas Morgan, he was going through this hard time, and you could easily argue, kind of like Daniel on fear, he's was teetering on that edge where it's like, you know what? I loved Morgan as a character in the very beginning of the show, and then when we saw him on Clear, but if he ended up going off that deep end, it'd be totally understandable.
Yeah.
You know, dealing with those PTSD symptoms that he had and just really being so solitary and not having any kind of outlet to sort of get better, work through it. It would have been totally understandable if he went off the deep end. So it's just interesting how they sort of went in two different directions.
I think it's so awesome how
difference between a sociopath and someone suffering from PTSD.
I just think it's really cool how Morgan became such a loved character after we had only seen him in 2 episodes. Like that's cool to me.
Yeah.
How did he do that? Like, that's awesome.
I know, that's crazy. It's very rare that you see that happen. They've talked about it on Talking Dead, especially after when did they have him on? He showed up. Maybe when he was going to show up for with Post Terminus when they were at Alexandria, when he saved the 2 of them, when he saved Daryl and Aaron from the trap, and he showed up in that episode. I think he was on a Talking Dead episode right after that, and they asked him, like, how does it feel to be someone who has, I mean, this show is like X amount of episodes so far, and you've been in like 3, and people love you.
Yeah, you're a favorite.
That's just
so
what
funny.
A gift, right? To be able to be able to do that.
Yeah.
You know, it's totally different, you know, because different genre or whatever. But I always think of things like when Will Wheaton's on Big Bang and stuff like that. You know, it's not someone who's in the main cast, and it's not someone who is central to the storyline. Like, Morgan could have never shown back up again. I mean, I know he's in the comics, but he could have never shown back up again.
He never disappears in the comic.
Yeah.
Well, he does, but it's weirder. Morgan's not a great character. Like, he's really cool in this show compared to the comics. He's still cuckoo in the show.
No shit.
Like, him and Michonne have that little flingy fling, and he's like, oh no, I'm cheating on my dead wife. Like, okay, calm down.
I love how it's a radio thing and it's not visual. And Julie totally just did like the like swirl where she was like, Michonne and him were like, for the benefit of me, because nobody could see it.
Only for Dianna. Always for Dianna. But yeah, that was episode 4. I mean,
episode 3 and 4. In the can.
In
Done.
the can.
In the can.
In the can.
That's a movie thing. Sorry.
You got me so incredibly distracted, Dianna. I am sorry, people who are listening. This is all sorts of crazy right now. Anyways, so I'm going to do our wrap up here and start talking about our social media.
Because that's what it says on the board. It says wrap up - social media.
JR.
And it says Julie, because that's her.
And I love how Dianna always uses our initials on things, because
just in case this, you know, I'm whatever. I'm BD. She's JR. What do you want?
Anyways, you guys can always email us at aimfortheheadpodcast@gmail.com. Always reach out to us on our Facebook, Aim for the Head Podcast. Just do a little search on that, and it'll come right up. And all of our other social medias are on there. But just in case you don't want to go there, you can find us on our Instagram.
On our Instagram. We also want to throw a big shout out. We know we snagged a couple of new listeners off of some forums that we've been posting on. We're trying real hard we don't want to spam anybody. We want to get some natural listeners and natural people interested. We know we snagged a couple people who said they would listen, got some great reviews from a few people.
Some awesome feedback from you guys. You guys are awesome. We love you.
So thank you so much for giving us a chance. If you have any other direct feedback, questions, next week we're going to be covering episodes 5 and 6, Now and Always Accountable. So if you've got any thoughts or reactions to those episodes, and you want to send them along and have us discuss them when we do our recap next week, give us a shout out. Facebook, online, send us a message, send us an email, and we'd love to hear from you.
And as always, thank you so much for listening to us, especially when we start getting slap happy. I really appreciate it. We love you all, and we will see you. I guess you'll listen to us next week.
We'll hear you next week?
No,
it
we
doesn't
won't
work.
hear anything. You hear us.
I don't know what we're going to say. How do we wrap this up?
I don't know. Hope you listen next week. Thanks so much.
Thanks. Bye.